So, today is the Shevuous in America. That's what I'll call it. Isra Chag here. Don't call your family.
Yeah,
Sometimes
I
you
always.
forget. Oh,
my God.
where is everybody? How come I don't care? I'm always answering the phone. Oh, Isra Chag.
I have to remind myself.
Right. So I really do want to go kind of recap some of the things we've been learning about in Sefer Bamid, leading up to Sefer Bamidbar, now that we're in Naso, and we're moving forward from there, okay? So, I want to do a little recap on Shevuous. Some of you were at the Shevuous Shiur, some of you were not able to be there, right? So, but I want to pull together, it does pull together some of the things we've been speaking about, but just maybe to make it a bit more clear. Number one, the Shevuous itself has no particular mitzvah, although it's called Chag Matan Torah Seder. That's curious in itself, because it looks like...
You mean cheesecake is not a mitzvah to you?
That's a Minhag Yisrael. And why do we have that Minhag Yisrael, by the way?
Because people didn't know that it was kashrut, so they, you know.
That's a popular terror. It's that there was no preparation for the laws of kashrus. But it goes deeper than that. Yeah, there's many other reasons. The main reason, I believe, is because it's the transformation into milk. Now, for Chazal, in Chazal's purposes, you have a state of Kedusha, or what we call Kiddushin. And Kiddushin is really the theme of Shevuous. It's the marriage between Hashem and Klal Yisrael. Right? It says, Vayipiyom close Moshe, it's a Mishkan Kalo Yisksiv. Right? In fact, the section of the gifts of the Nesiim, which we read right now, Parshas Naso, we happen to read it. Right, and by the way, going back to your question of last time as to why America is still behind us, it's a very interesting answer, actually. Why did America, always you read Parshas Bamidbar prior to Shevuous, to break the curses. Remember we learned about the 45 or 49 curses in Parshas Bamidbar? And you want to have a break, immediate break between that and Shevuous. We had more than a break because we had a second week. We had Bamidbar and we had Naso. We read Naso Erev Yontif, right? Shabbos Erev Yontif. So why is it that America neglected to, double up on, on a part? To catch up with us essentially. So the bottom line is that it's much more of a statement to cut off the klala dramatically with the beginning of the book of Bamidbar. It's like, it's noticeable. It's like you're going from woe to something new. So the barrier between the curses and the brachos, so to speak, of Matan Torah, usually made it. And that's why in Israel, we had no choice but to go ahead. Okay? And we lost that extra emphasis. But that emphasis was so strong that we're willing to not come together as a community until when? Shevuous Parshas Shevuous. I think it's kind of ironic because Shevuos Tammuz is the collective experience of what? Of Churban. And it really represents what? The breaking of the Luchos. The self-same Luchos that we would have gotten together on Shevuos, we didn't. But when it comes to breaking the Luchos, the story of breaking the Luchos, then Klal Yisrael joins together. And isn't that the way it is? That in Peronios, and that's one of the reasons why Tisha B'Av is called a Moed. It says, Karolai Moed L'Shkor B'Chura. It's a Yontif. What do you mean it's Yontif? It's a little bit Yontif.
You don't say Tachanun?
We don't say Tachanun. And the question is why? I mean, it's such a sad time. What about it is a Yontif? And the answer is, it will be a Yontif, but others suggest, the Rav Gifter suggested, he says, no, Moed doesn't mean Yontif. Moed means covenantal moment. A moment when Klal Yisrael is experiencing something as a whole. We're not individuals at that moment, we're experiencing part of a collective experience of Klal Yisrael. Moed coming from the word vad, coming from the word coming together. Vad. And like you have a vad abayit, right? You raise your electricity bill. Chaim. Speaking about a related issue, just off the cuff. If somebody parks in your driveway, you injure that person accidentally, are you liable? Somebody parks in your driveway, and you're backing out, you don't even know that they're there, and you injure them, are you liable?
Yes.
Now, that's an issue related to communal property, right? Because it's everybody's driveway, belongs to the Bada Bayis, and then somebody from the outside, not somebody from the Bayis, somebody from the outside world comes and infringes upon that space. Anyway, just to show.
Are you liable?
What's that?
Are you liable? What's the answer? Yes or no?
I guess it's not so.
That's a good answer.
I think that the answer hinges on whether a person would get a parking ticket for parking in that spot. If they would get a parking ticket for parking in that spot, I think they parked at their own risk. But if they wouldn't get a parking ticket for being out on the spot, that's what I think it is. You have to call the local police.
You wouldn't get a parking
Is it
ticket.
designated as a private place?
It's obviously, yeah. It's like an indented driveway. It's not, there's no curb. There's a lower driveway to the street. Anyway, but that's just to show you that when Jews get together to do something, a lot can go right, a lot can go wrong. But that's why when we reach Rosh Hashanah, we better get our act together and be together. We deem that, and there's other reasons for that too, but I think that's the basic answer to your question. All right, but let's go back to Shevuous for a moment. If Shevuous is called Hag Matan Torah Seinu, there is no particular mitzvah for many hundreds of years that reflected that. Only in the 16th century, that's when Tikkun Leil Shevuos began. There was no Tikkun Leil Shevuos all this time. It was started in the period of the Ariya Kodosh, and more importantly, in the time of the Beis Yosef. The Beis Yosef was
They
from the
wanted to
Gerushay
start a
Sfarad
Sanhedrin, that's not also?
before he even got to Israel. In fact, it was because of Tikkun Leil Shevuos that he came to Israel, and that we even have a Shulchan Aruch today, which is pretty amazing. Which is maybe not ironic, because it was Shevuous that spurred the collective experience that we need a Shulchan Aruch. We got to know halacha, because there's so many opinions in the Rishonim, and you can be a great scholar, but there's differences in the Rishonim about what is the halacha, and we don't know what to do, and we need it to be set in front of us like a Shulchan Aruch. So Rabbi Yosef Karo was a Gerush Sfarad, who was an escapee from the Spanish expulsion, and he ended up in Turkey, which is really like, there's a country there, Bulgaria, it's like the border of Bulgaria and Turkey, due north of Israel. There was a Jewish community there, and that's where he lived. And then there was a night, they got together, on Shevuos night, him and some of his students, Yosef Karo, who was a great Mekubal. And as the story goes, one thing that he always did was recite Mishnayos by heart. Always recite Mishnayos by heart, constantly. So, like Lahavda, they say someone speaks in tongues. Did you ever hear that phrase?
Yeah,
Like
sure.
from the revival with religions, all of a sudden somebody's overtaken by a voice and they start speaking. Well, that's actually what happened. He was sitting there with a minion of fellows.
Isn't he the one who had a malach also?
Right. So he had a magi that spoke to him, but he started to speak in a very deep voice, and people don't know what's going on. And he said, "Who are you?" The voice of the Mishnah. I am the Mishnah. He says, "And your gathering has brought such joy to the heavenly realm that we wanted to tell you how dear you are to us." Well, a couple of fellows didn't stay up all night. You can imagine how they felt. So the next night, which was Yom Tov Sheni Shel Golios, they stayed up a second night, and it happened again. And at that point, it became revealed to them that they should go to Eretz Yisrael. And Hashem was actually summoning them to Eretz Yisrael. Much like the Torah was given in Chutz La'aretz, it finds its Hitgashmut in Eretz Yisrael. And that really is the story of Shevuos. Because we got the Luchos in the middle of the Midbar, in the middle of nowhere, but when we get to Eretz Yisrael and we have a Mishkan and or a Beis HaMikdash, what do we bring? Chalos. 2 chalos. According to the Zohar, the 2 chalos represent the 2 luchos, just that they've gone through a tremendous transformation. One from, the first luchos we didn't even have, except broken, was a theoretical model. It was a state of being that we had equal to the time of Adam Harishon, right? Well, we may not be ready for that, but we got the second luchos. But the luchos are the two luchos become the shtei halechem. That's the theory. Because why two? Now, the Zohar also says that the two breads that you eat every Friday night also symbolize the luchos. Now, why do we eat two breads every night? Because why do we eat two breads on Shabbos? Why? Lechem Mishnah of the man, right? What does man have to do with this? If the challahs represent the man, what does man have to do with this? So there's a very famous chazal, it's Gemara Megillah also, Lo nitna Torah ela la'ochlei haman. You could not get Torah until you went through the purifying process of eating man. Because that's what lifted us back towards the level that Adam Harishon was on. That level, we'll call it the level of letters. What is the Torah? Letters. Osios. Black on white fire is what the Zohar describes it on. These are concepts. These are energies, whatever you want to call them. But you need to eat a piece of bread. You need to be practical also. I told my son-in-law, find a kola, pay something. Wait a minute, find a kola, pay something. If you want to be in kola, great, but you have to go for free. I mean, there's a limit, you know. So lechem is the translation of the principles, of the osios of the Torah into reality. In fact, big tzaddikim, when they would eat, they didn't eat. They imagined that they were imbibing the kedusha that was in that physical reality, which is the forces of Hashem's identity. Call them atoms, call them vitamins, call them whatever you are, but it's whatever the aleph base of creation is in that bread. Because as we know, and as we believe, the Hebrew language is not just the language, but it actually is a representative of the created reality. Right? It is the reality. So somehow a camel is connected to those three letters of Gamal. There's no way out. You know, it's just a flesh and blood, how shall I say, manifestation of those three letters.
Did every family bring shnei lechem, or was just one?
Good question. No, it's from the tzibur. Everybody did through that korban. Everybody,
every family, yeah. Every family.
No, they didn't bring it individually. There was two breads that was taken from the money of the tzibur. So technically the tzibur brought it, and they have a chiyuv to bring it. Interestingly enough, listen to this, the Kohen Gadol ate one, and the rest of the Kohanim ate the other one. Like, why don't they just share, you know? Okay, wait, so the Zohar goes on to say more. You ready? The two challahs of Friday night represent the Omer. The Omer is the precondition for receiving Torah, which then luchos become morphed into chalos. That is a unique shot, but I think it's pashut in the Mamar Chazal. Because otherwise, why two? Why two? Okay, we'll see in a second. There's another reason, a very important reason why there's two. And, however, the Omer is also connected here, right? And I'll show you how. So the Gemara says that Hashem said to Klal Yisrael, you know what? I'm a good sport. I gave each one of you an Omer worth of man. An Omer worth of man. But when it came to Sfiras Omer, all I ask you to give me is one little measly Omer of barley, which we give when? On the second day of Pesach, the beginning of Sfiras Omer, which is the other link here, because the Omer of barley, the one measly Omer of barley, becomes what? At the end of the Sfira? 2 lechems of chita, of sola, of
There was no
fine.
kitnios,
We couldn't bring it, but not for Karma. But the idea is that the Omer, which starts with barley, ends up with fine wheat. And let's go to,
How does it become fine?
meaning the original carbon of barley starts at the beginning of the process of Shevuous. But the mitzvah is that as soon as the Shevuous is complete, we have a biblical obligation to bring 2 loaves.
Oh, it's not from that original.
No, it's connected because it's the one is the beginning period, one is the end period, but it's one mitzvah. It's one mitzvah. So much so, and this Salvation pointed out, the Gemara says there is no day of Shevuous. There is no calendar day. It could be the 5th, it could be the 6th, it could be the 7th. Moshe added a day, subtracted a day. Why not? Why? Because it has nothing to do with Sivan. It has everything to do with the Omer. It's the 50th day of the count of the Omer, and that is dependent on whether the month is a single month, meaning 29 days, or 30 days. So the date is flexible because you got to count 50 days. What will be the calendar date? It depends. If that's a month that has full 30 days, it's going to be a little bit later. If it's going to have less days, it'll be a little earlier. It doesn't make a difference. There is no significance to Shevuous without the context of the Omer of the first day of Pesach. This is why it is called Atzeres. Stop. Chazal call it Atzeres because it's the end of the Omer. Shevuous has no independent identity as a Yantiv. It's just an elongated Chol HaMoed. Really? Yeah.
If the day is set, then why in Schwartz do they need 2 days? Because the accounts were set.
Brilliant question. That was the question that Rabbi Soloveitchik asked, actually, in his Talmud class. He said there should not be Yom Tov Sheni Shogah. Everybody asks. There should not be 2 days of Shevuous. People in America have had enough cheesecake by now. It's enough. You know, we Israelis, I like to say that, we Israelis, they think about 3-day Yom Tov. One of the perks of making Aliyah. It was invented to punish people who wouldn't make Aliyah. That's why we love you. But it's the answer to your question is look, because people will get confused if in Schwartz they only do 1 day Shevuous and then they put 2 days Sukkot or 2 days Pesach. It's just too confusing. But you're right. There is no reason other than uniformity to keep a second day of Shevuous in Schwartz because we know the date. The reason why they kept 2 days is because they weren't sure you're in Schwartz. You can hear what the Beis Din Yerushalayim declared. By the way, I found that interesting thing. Lahavdil Elf Abdalos. The same machloikis was by the Goyim. They almost caused them their laundry for Shevuous. They have the holiday Eid al-Fitr. Eid al-Fitr, which means raising. You have to open your eyes and see. All religion was stolen from Judaism. Everything was stolen. They came up and they said, okay, we have a holiday that's called Eid al-Fitr, but the only way you can do it's the month of end of the month of Ramadan. Now, how do you know when Ramadan is over?
Ramadan is 40 days.
It is 40 days?
Yes.
But
This motion went up 40 days. They copied it.
But when they come, so how do you know that Ramadan is over? They have to go to the Sharia court, and the court has to wait for somebody to come and say that they saw the moon.
Oh, wow.
So there were 2 opinions. One was that it was Wednesday, Thursday. Nobody wanted to work, so they didn't show up to the laundromats. And they were nobody was getting their talesim for Shevuous because in Hebron and the Palestinian Authority, everybody was carrying on. So
Bus drivers didn't show up.
exactly right.
Busy.
Very busy. And I read something fascinating today. Today is Lahavdil Adalos. Just to show how everything is rooted in, all truth is rooted in Torah. Today in England is called Whit Monday or White Monday. You know about that? Everybody runs around dressed in white. What's going on? So it's what? It's like no. They say they're celebrating Pentecost. what is Pentecost?
Shevuous.
Shevuous.
What does the word Pentecost literally mean? Pentecost is from the word 50 days from Easter. Oh gee, let's see if that resonates with anything in the real Torah. Oh yeah, 50 days from the beginning of the Omer. It's exactly the concept. Not going. They don't even know what they're doing, but they're copying the Shevuous Omer, which shows that this is a very, very
They actually
basic concept.
They actually count, Rabbi?
Yeah.
They go in count?
50 days from Easter is Whit Monday,
I mean, they
which is called it's called the day after Pentecost, the day after the 7 weeks, which means Lahavdil Shevuous, the same.
Is
But
this to help them in the Messianic times when they'll have like a bit of an understanding and a bit of a...
well, that's what on the positive side, that's what the Rambam says. They've been all warmed up to the same ideas, the same issue on some level.
And of this,
But
then
so, I want to now introduce a story from Rabbi Nachman, which shows you just how integrated all these ideas are. Remember, what do we have so far? Let's just recap. We're trying to understand this puzzle. 2 luchos, 2 lechem, but it's connected to the Omer, but it's connected to the month, but it's all connected. Well, why? What is this structure really trying to tell us? So, Rabbi Nachman, this is called the Maisa Mehalechem. It's a little bit of an obscure tale. It's not written in the books. It's written in ancillary stories of Rabbi Nachman. Apparently this was hush-hush. Everything, there were a lot of stuff in Breslov that was not for public consumption, including his description of Mashiach, which is revealed in a thing called Megillah Sisarim, the scroll of secrets. But all of that has been revealed starting in 1990 because so much stuff was coming out about Rabbi Nachman, it was impossible to hold the secrets. And the elders of Breslov of this generation felt apparently, the gag order is off, and we're allowed to tell these stories to give people chizuk.
You said 1990?
Yeah, Nazis. When they were able to break through and get to the grave side, corresponding to the year we always speak about. What year is that? 1990. 5750, which is the midpoint of the final 500 years of history, meaning everything accelerates. The Geula begins to accelerate rapidly. It had already accelerated, as we said many times, going back to the year 5500, but much more so in the year 5600, which was 1840, but much more so starting the year 5666, according to Vilna Gaon, which was 1906. 1906 is the beginning of the what we call the Kates HaPloyim, the incomprehensible scientific rapid advancement of man's intelligence and technological capabilities began in 1906.
How do they measure that in terms of?
According to Zohar. But how do you measure it? I measured it by reading history, and I've told you this. The first cars, Model T Fords, appeared in 1906. The first airplane that was applied with an engine. It took American, what they called it, the knowledge of the gliding was called aerodynamics. They took the aerodynamics that were coming out of America, which was just the wings, and applied it with a good old German, French motor, because that's what they do best, iron motors. And they put a motor into the wings, and they had the first flying clubs in Paris, and very nice. When World War I broke out, how many years later? All of 8 years later, you had warplanes fitted with instruments of mass destruction, machine guns, the Red Baron, the Havdol, and so on. How did that happen? And then we were on the moon by 1969. In space within less than 50 years after that, the space race had already begun. It doesn't make any sense. It's irrational. And of course, the rapid advances in health technology. which is all about life extension, which is what we're in the middle of. The first heart transplant. Remember the first heart transplant was from that guy in Christian something or other,
Chris
a religious
Barnard.
guy. Christian Barnard, right? And it was in South Africa or something like that. When was that? Like 1980, 1970? That was the big question. I mean, that's like old stuff now. They don't even have to do heart transplants anymore. Just put a little stent and you're good to go. You can grow an artificial heart. Just a little plastic piece. In Israel, they do 3D printing of hearts. Did you know that? Israel does 3D printing of hearts. You know what 3D printing is? I don't. But I heard about it.
So they print in the heart and the
Not whole heart, but I'm saying heart, valves, and this and that. There is no logic to this. Pouring out of Israel every minute is another start. I just read recently that says that the main next wave of high tech in Israel all has to do with food. All has to do with food.
food.
Growing food and and water. They're providing food and water for the world. This is the biggest problems. And we don't have any water. Nothing.
What do we supply?
Coming out of thin air. And this is what's moving. This is what's moving the process of peace and the growth of Israel as a world power is because there's benefit. You know, if the magic formula for Jews and Goyim goes back to Yaacov. What does Yaacov do to get in good graces with Esav? Gives him money, tons of money. And what does Esav say? I got your back. I'll protect you. It's okay. Not to protect me so much, but as long as the guy sees himself as benefiting financially from the Jew, and he's got the money's flowing in their direction, that's been the historical saving grace of Jews throughout in the non-Jewish world. As long as the money is flowing, we got no problems. When they feel that the Jews are gathering all the money for themselves and they're in a depressed state, that's when all the problems start. That is all the problems. And that's why Yosef HaMashbir, Yosef the Mashbir, who fed the world, when it came to bury Yaakov Avinu in Hebron, the highest contested thing of, and it's still today, is anything more contested than the Cave of the Patriarchs and Har HaBayit? Nothing. But they put their crowns on the coffin of Yosef HaTzadik, and they said, this was the man who fed us. And that's what we have to do. We have to be the Mashbirim. If we're the Mashbir, we'll be safe.
Is that an indication that when Mashiach comes, something like that would happen too?
Yeah, it already happened.
The Goyim will-
When Shlomo HaMelech was in the world, we already had a taste of Mashiach. If you want to understand, this Rabbi Nachman says also, basically, when he writes this whole book about what Mashiach is all about, if you just lift the veil on it, he's just talking about Shlomo HaMelech. You know what he says about Mashiach? He says it'll be a boy king. He'll be 13 years old. When the world already, boy genius, musically incredibly talented, but also a doctor. So he'll be a doctor. He's going to reveal cures to a tremendous amount of diseases through knowing how to manipulate plants and leaves, and he'll be a great homeopathic healer, essentially.
Who says this?
Oh,
this is the secrets that
yeah,
revealed?
the Gilad Sitarim. And he was in, I might as well tell you the story. I have to tell you now 2 stories from now. What am I going to do?
Well, what about the women? I mean, he's not going to have.
He'll be married. No. He's going to get married very, very young.
But the one wife.
Nachman got married when he was 13, okay?
The one wife.
He had 8 children. He died at 39. He had 8 children. Most of them died in his life.
Never.
He reveals the time of Mashiach and the secrets.
Only one hint we have is that when he started to tell the story, he was driving in a wagon with 2 of his students and with some of his sons-in-law. And the 2 students and the sons-in-law were listening, and a big contingent of Russian troops marched by. Big. And that's what stimulated him to talk about Mashiach.
And that one?
So put that word away. Russian troops on the march. He said, Yes, I'll tell you about Mashiach. Because obviously Russia
Airplanes
plays a major
buzzing.
role. A military invasion of Russia plays a major role in Mashiach. Now, I told you this a couple of years
So
ago.
we just gonna have
Before we
one
were
line
learning.
of the-
Before we were
Oh,
learning.
I'm
Yeah,
being-
Bill McGowan's piece about when the Russians get past the Dardanelles, start buttoning start polishing your buttons for Mashiach. Well, that happened when Russia took Crimea. When did they take Crimea? That was in, what, less than 10 years ago. And then what happened? They moved forward and they entered Syria, which is literally Eretz Yisrael. Syria is Eretz Yisrael. Lebanon is Eretz Yisrael. The areas in contest, they're here.
All of Syria or parts of it?
You have to know how to draw the map. First of all, a good chunk of Lebanon is biblical Eretz Yisrael, all the way up to the what do they call it? Beyond the Litani River, but up till way past Beirut. You go to the northern Lebanon, above the Bekaa Valley. You just draw a straight line across, and you're in Syria, and you're really just below Turkey. Just below Turkey. That's where Aram Naharaim was. That's where Haran is. Haran is right there. I like to say that Mount Ararat was the border between the Jewish world and the Gentile world. That's why Noach landed there. That's the border.
And what about Damascus? That's also.
Up to Damascus. No,
Up.
Damascus is not part of Eretz Yisrael. Ironically, it's
What
just
did you
not.
go, James?
Damascus was never part of Eretz Yisrael.
On the
Never.
map?
But then again, according to the Navi, there's something called Yerushas Avram Avinu, which incorporates all the Arab lands. Every piece of land, including the part of Egypt, Goshen, where the Jews lived, which is called Yerushas Sarah
Kind of a big
Avinu,
country.
because that was her compensation for being abused, being abducted by Paro, that she was given the land of Goshen, which is why we lived there. We were living in Eretz Yisrael of the future. That's also Eretz Yisrael. The Nile Delta belongs to us, which is why Ariel Sharon Nebuch, who did wonderful things and also did some very painful things, conquered it. It's ours. So again, where do you want to draw the lines? It's an evolving map. But let's go back to Reb Nachman's story for a second. I want to go back to the original story, the story of the bread. Okay. Story is, he has a dream from his great-grandfather Baal Shem Tov. In the middle of the night, says, watch what you eat. Be very careful what you eat. He doesn't know what it means. He gets up, he's all disturbed. He starts a fast. He starts davening. He doesn't know what's going on. His grandfather, Baal Shem Tov, came to him in a dream. What does this all mean? Next day, he's davening, falls asleep. Grandfather comes back to him and says, what's happening is that Hashem wants to give you a special portion of Torah. This is when he was still a very young man. Before he became the president, he was in a place called Zlatopol. But you can't get your portion of Torah until what you do first. You have to eat man. Man. The Torah is only given to people who eat man, so you have to eat man. Wakes up, now what? There's no man. You can't go to the man store. You go to